Hi, in this video, I'm actually going to tell you a story of me going to my friend's house to get ready and go to a party. Alright, so I'm standing at home and I have three of my friends waiting for me just down the street. Well, obviously I have my girlfriend waiting and I have two other cute guys that I'm interested in seeing. So I'm kind of in a hurry and I want to get ready and get to the party already. Since I live down the street from them, I already know that I have to travel about 720 meters to get to their house. Now, because I'm in a hurry and I want to get there and I'm also the designated driver, I decide to take my car to drive there. Now, this might not be the best looking car, but you know what? I'm a student. Alright, so I'm just going to hop on the car and I'm going to start driving. Now, while I'm driving, I'm going to drive about 200 meters. And then I see a construction sign. They have closed down the street and they're digging a hole on the street. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take a detour and I'm going to drive south a little bit for 70 meters. And then I'm going to take the next street west. And I'm going to continue driving for 500 meters and then take the next street north for another 70 meters. And then I'm going to reach my friend's house once I drive for another 20 meters. So there you go, I'm there. The easiest way to find out the distance that I've traveled is my car odometer. Once I look at that, it will show me the distance that I traveled. Now, if I were to add all of these little distances that I've actually traveled, so let's mark this distance 1 from here to here. And then this is my second distance. So this would be my D1. This is my D2. This is D3, D4, and D5. If I add all of these distances together, I will actually have the total distance that I traveled today to reach my friend's house. Now, in order to do that, I'm just going to add all the numbers here. So this will give me the total distance. It would be 200 meters plus 70 meters plus 500 meters plus another 70 meters north plus 20 meters. If I add them all together, I will get a number of 860 meters. So that's how much I traveled. Now, the distance from my house to my friend's house was only 720 meters. So I traveled a longer distance to get there. But that's okay. I'm going to call that my total distance. Now, let's take a look at the same path again and figure out what the total displacement is. So the displacement is basically a vector addition of all the distances that I've traveled. But here, displacement is basically a vector. But displacement is basically a vector addition. A vector addition of all the distances and paths that I've traveled. Meaning if I were to draw these all in vectors, so my vector 1 from my initial position for 200 meters west, and then my second vector 70 meters south, and my third vector 500 meters west, my fourth vector 70 meters north, and my final vector 20 meters west. My displacement would be a vector addition of all these. When you're adding vectors, you're adding them from tail to head of the previous vector, which is what I did. So my final vector is going to be from the tail of my initial vector to the head of my final vector. So the blue vector here is actually my displacement. And what is that equal to? I know the distance from my house to my friend's house is 720 meters. Therefore, this is equal to my displacement. All right, so as you can see, this is the difference between distance and displacement. I'm going to actually show you another example. So let's say if I started traveling from here to here. So these are all position vectors. And then from here to here, and then also from here to back home. So basically I started from position 1 here. I went to this point 2 to point 3, and then went back to my initial position, which is 1. So let's call this 5 meters, and this 7 meters, and this possibly to be 10 meters here. If I were to know the total distance that I've traveled, I will have to add all of these distances together. So it would be my D1 plus D2 plus D3. So it would be 5 plus 7 plus 10. And that equals to 22 meters. So this is the total distance I've traveled. But now to find out what the displacement is, I have to add these together, and they're already added together because I have connected the tail of D2 to the head of D1 and the tail of D3 to the head of D2. And then from my position 1, from the tail of my position 1 to my final position, it is a vector with a 0 quantity. Therefore, my displacement here is 0. This is what it means to have a 0 displacement. Once you start traveling and you go to whatever path you want to take, but then once you end up going back home, then that means that you really didn't have a displacement. So once you add all of these vectors together, you end up with a vector with a 0 magnitude because you're just going back to where you started. That means that you had no displacement. And that's basically what you will use in further physics questions that we're going to do. All right, well, that's it for today, and I hope this helped.